the car, popped the hood, car's on fire. Tried pulling the fire suppression system, tried pulling it 5-6 times, nothing happened. Saw in the last video, my car started on fire. We're gonna figure out why. Before we can figure out what happened, we need to wash it. We need to just get it clean, kind of figure out what we can play around with. What we think it is before we really even jump into it is something happened with our overflow tank. If you missed the last episode, go watch that. That's super important for this one, otherwise none of this is gonna make sense. For sake, dude, what's the point of the system?
Yeah, that's incredibly frustrating.
3 times I pulled this shit. Nothing. What's the point? We think it had too much pressure, hit the hood, and then when we got off track, that fluid dropped onto the turbo blanket, and it was at a temperature that it ignited a flame, and then here we are. So we have to do a whole suite of checkdowns. We need to make sure we didn't lose any compression. We need to make sure we do a leak down test because we want to make sure that the block is still good first and foremost. That's what I'm most worried about. The second thing that I'm most worried about is that if it's not that, why was there so much pressure in the engine that caused the overflow tank to essentially pop? We're gonna figure that out in today's episode, and hopefully we find it, because it'd really stink if we didn't. All right, so we're finally tearing into the S2000 and we have a compression tester. And the reason that we have one of these is because we want to make sure that during the time where the fire was maybe making things just a little bit too toasty, all of that came from what we feel like is the overflow tank. And if the overflow tank may have caused some issues inside the engine or the head, we want to make sure that we didn't accidentally ruin something much worse than just my pride and dignity. So we're gonna check this, but it does recommend that we take out all the spark plugs and we also do it warm. Gel's actually already made fun of me because he said I should know why it should be ran warm, to which I said, don't yell at me and don't tell me what to do. Apparently heat expands metal and things like that. So we're not trying to get the most accurate compression test. We just want to see if it's consistent, because that's just going to help me feel better to make sure that nothing happened inside the engine. Before we go in, tear out the turbo, tear out everything we can, clean everything down, and make sure we can do a diagnostic on what actually needs to be replaced from a wiring perspective and what can still be salvaged and recovered. The next news is we have to put in a whole new ECU, but we're not even gonna talk about that. Instead, we're gonna talk about why in the hell, Alex, do you not own one of these? And the answer is because I haven't needed one before. Zero.
I don't believe that, to be completely honest.
That's not real. It's not that bad, guys. It's not that bad.
I refuse to believe that.
We didn't really think through whether the battery was charged. Ah.
Did we get a reading?
We got a reading. Better than zero.
Uh-oh.
189? 190?
Oh! Yo!
My God.
What the? I ain't never seen some shit like that.
That's so much oil.
I ain't never seen
I've
some
never seen a braided line do that. This could have been overheating.
Okay.
This could have been the fire.
Yeah, that 100%
Yes.
was the fire. It's right there. Holy shit.
So we have a good update, but it's still a not good update. We thought initially the fire was coming from this, which is essentially a catch can that also acts as a cooler for the coolant, an expansion tank, which is always scary. We actually had one in the 430 that we took out because I never like putting coolant and oil together. It's weird. So we thought maybe this overheated, exploded, hit the top of the hood, and then came down onto the turbo blanket and caused the fire. But the oil leak that's coming from this braided line is so substantial that what we think was happening is this was overheating per normal. This cracked, and then the oil came from here, and that's what started shooting up because there's an insane amount of oil dripping.
A couple extra bolts.
Take this, and that off, and just get it out, and then we can diagnose the rest. So oil feed line, that's good-ish. At least
it's better news than a head gasket, right? Or a
Yeah.
cracked piston or something.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do. So let us go further down
The rabbit hole.
Call Gels Alice in Wonderland because we about to be jumping into holes trying to figure out what else needs to be fixed. Now guys and gals, we have a problem. And the problem is during the time that we figured out that we think that turbo line is the problem for the fire, it doesn't solve the fact that I still have no gauges or really no help in understanding what the the car is doing on the track. So I reached out to a friend, his name is Zach, and Zach kind of runs a brand called ECUMaster. Essentially, I told him my problem. I asked him what he would recommend, and then he told me, hey, you have a, what ECU are you running in there? And I told him, he's like, that's great, but probably not gonna be what you want, especially as you're jumping into, you know, track racing. So I asked him what he recommended. He said, let me help you out and I'll send this to you. So I wanna be able to read the data. I wanna be able to know what the car is doing, what the car is thinking, and there's no better way to do that than with an actual ECU that can tell me some of the information, and ECUMaster was happy enough to help me out. So this is pretty much everything that I got going on. Nothing too crazy. The one thing I did wanna see though is, oh, there's a little, woo-hoo-hoo. This is what I'm most excited for. This thing. This thing is rad looking. Look at that. Holy smokes. I do have a feeling I'm gonna need a little bit of help though, putting this whole thing together.
I sprayed my exhaust like 7 times on the gravel.
Do you mean to explain to me that you drove this all the way here?
Yeah, I took the arrow off so I didn't blow it off, but...
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That's so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson, why are you fishing that out of the mid pipe?
Because I'm really good at basketball, and I did a 3-point play and made the ratchet in the mid pipe.
He literally dropped it, and it went down the mid pipe from here. That is impressive. Put that back
Out.
right now.
Out with the old and with the new.
Jesus
You're free.
The front side looks way cooler than the back, all right? What is that?
This is technically your dash / GPS harness.
It looks so pretty.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cory Talaska. The YouTube community, y'all are incredibly smart. I post there every couple days to just talk about updates that are going on with the cars, and this was a huge topic in terms of what was causing potentially fire issues. Now, we still believe that the turbo oil feed line was what caused the fire. However, this definitely didn't help. This is a coolant oil exchanger of sorts, essentially a catch can. And you have the oil and the coolant running in. There's a box essentially preventing the two from mixing. But then you have this filter right here. And the internet was awesome in terms of figuring this out. But this being right here next to the turbo, not the greatest place for it to be. Also, just randomly venting right in the front of the engine, probably not the best move. So we are going to move this, and we might actually even get rid of it entirely, depending on how much time we have left before Gridlife Road America. Where we want to put it is right here. We've relocated the battery to the back of the car, which means we have all this space right here. So we want to move this over here, likely create maybe a little bit of a cut or a venting for it to get out of the engine bay, but then this is going to help us keep this part away from the turbo. We're also getting rid of the turbo blanket entirely. It's going to be a little ugly, but at least for the rest of the season, we can run it, we can test it, do all that sort of good stuff. And then finally, the last key piece to try and do this in a safe way is we're creating our own little power block of sorts that Cory set up. And what this is going to allow us to do is we can run switched power to here. This will then get fused, and then from that fuse we can run all of the additional power sensors that we'll need to run. But because it's on switched power, that helps us in terms of controlling any sort of amperage. And then also, because everything is fused, we're doing it safely because we are going to be running power from the other side of the car over to all of this. So things are looking pretty good. So we're pretty much almost there. What the ECUMaster standalone data logger, CAN bus stuff, what it's gonna allow us to do is it's gonna allow us to see a whole lot more. Probably the most humbling thing about this entire thing happening is that I probably should have been able to spot it when I was going around the racetrack, but I didn't have any sensors or temp signals telling me that we were getting toasty. And now that we have this, we'll be able to see it, we'll be able to see pretty much everything, and it'll actually be data logged as well. Hold on, let me show you this. So now we have this. This is the data logger that's gonna allow us to see what's going on with the car in real time. We can pull this out, it's right underneath the dash, plug it into a computer, see what's going on, see if we need to make any adjustments, and this is gonna be huge for figuring out how the car is behaving, how the temps are doing, all that sort of good stuff. ECUMaster has a whole bunch of different stuff as well. Like you can actually put this and connect it to a GoPro so that you can actually see all of this stuff happening in conjunction with actual video. So as you're going around turns, as you're going into braking zones and things like that, and it's very, very cool. Now, Cory made this whole thing seem insanely simple. As he was explaining it to me, it didn't feel very simple, but what I do know is we've got the basics of it all set up. For the most part, things are feeling pretty good. We do still have to clean up the fire that ruined all the cords that were going to those front sensor bits. Once we do that, we should have some good news. You and me might see a lit up display today, which if we do that, that means that we are well on our way for our car to actually be ready for Road America Gridlife at the end of July. Also means the only thing left is a tune. That part I'm worried about, just a little bit. All right, I think are we ready?
Maybe.
We're gonna try, we're gonna see the moment we've been waiting for. Let's go! That is so rad.
And we have ECU data, so sick.
Sick. It's been 3 months since this car has been on. 3 months since we have added even power to this thing. It's a small step, but it's a good step. It's a proper step in the right direction. You and I have made a lot of progress together. We're putting it all back because we have to get it ready to do like a shakedown ECU like starter. So when you rebuild pretty much your wiring harness and you start fresh with a new brain, you almost have to do like a BIOS thing where you have to go through and you have to tell the brain exactly what to do, because if you don't do it right, it can grenade and blow up and cause all sorts of issues. But to do that, we got to get everything kind of put back together. The only thing left, I have to wire in the solenoid wire connector here, down here that we replaced, that came overnight. Once we have that in, then we can go through and get the battery locked down in the trunk. We're gonna be good there. Then it's all about going through that BIOS procedure, getting a base map tune put on the car, and then hopefully me and you can make it to the dyno next week, a couple days before Gridlife. If we just make it around Gridlife, I'll be a very happy man.
You did the header or the exhaust manifold?
Yep, these are tight.
Okay. This is the V-band here is tight. That V-band is tight.
So good news, we do have everything ready to go for the first startup, which has made me super nervous. I have no idea, I've never done this before. So ECUMaster and I are gonna hop on a call. It's gonna take about 90 minutes to get the first startup. But we did find out what was causing the fire. We have everything put in place to prevent that in the future, but we actually have to get the ECUMaster, which is the new ECU, calibrated with the motor. Oil's flushed, coolant's flushed, new wires, new everything, new harness. We should hopefully be good to go. We are gonna walk through everything on the ECUMaster initial startup in the next video, because this has been a backup holding of like 3 months worth of content, and I hope you guys don't mind, but it has been an absolute like mountain to learn everything that I needed to know so that I didn't have to just ship the car out to somebody else to get it fixed. So huge thanks to Cory Talaska, huge thanks to Jackson, as well as ECUMaster for coming on board with this. The next video is gonna be awesome. I'm super excited, I'm nervous. Today marks 12 days away from having this car on a track for Gridlife track battle. So fingers crossed. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of everything that we did. Of course, I'm sure you have opinions on if something was done wrong, but for the most part, as long as the oil is clean and the coolant is clear, or blue, you get the point. I'm happy. I'm AlexMartini. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Adios. It's never over till it's over.